Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. LeBron James notches his third straight triple-double, and the Lakers pull out a win against Memphis. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends, no matter how rare you're getting this podcast right here. You're never going to pay for it. It's never going to be behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 26,000 subscribers to the channel, Andy, all of whom are wondering exactly how the writers managed to get something so much crammed into one game. Because the story arc of this one, to say the least, the Lakers win 128-123 over the Grizzlies, was dramatic. There was a tremendous amount to like, then a tremendous amount to dislike. But the things to dislike in the middle created the environment for all the things to like at the end. It was really well crafted tonight by the writers' room. So congratulations to everyone involved.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to push through a bunch of bleep in order to get a win. And down the stretch, ultimately, the Lakers ended up looking like a good team, even as
I'm just picturing Andy Dufresne crawling through the tunnel to get out of Shawshank Prison.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call this like 3 football fields worth of crap. Like it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that tough.
bad.
This was not like Game 7, 2010 versus Boston. Like, let's not exaggerate this thing. But you know, the second and a lot of the third quarter for the Lakers got very shaky after they built up a double-digit lead in the first quarter. Anthony Davis, who I want to make sure we point out at the end, really managed to have some nice screw all y'all moments down the stretch, but he struggled in this game a lot with the physicality of Jaren Jackson Jr., especially Zach Edey is an enormous human being.
He really is.
I mean, my
There
God.
are moments where, like, because Anthony Davis is not a small human. He's not.
No.
Anthony Davis, if you walk by Anthony Davis on the street, I mean, aside from being like, oh my God, it's Anthony Davis, you'd be like, oh my God, that is the largest human being I've ever seen. And Zach Edey makes Anthony Davis look
and that
by comparison.
The physicality of Edey was interesting in the first half of the game. His stat line was nothing that would jump out at you at all. Like, he hadn't really done much in terms of the box score, but he was plus 12 in 13 minutes. And the reason I even bring that up is just this felt indicative of how a lot of good stuff was happening for Memphis, specifically dealing with AD, specifically when Edey was on the floor and he started the second half. That was not coincidental at all.
And AD, you know, they got AD into foul trouble, which kind of plagued him beyond the physicality. Then you get the foul trouble, and
it aggravated the bleep out of him on top of it.
It did, and it made it hard for me. You know, even when Redick let him play for a while with 4 fouls, I actually put him back in relatively early, fairly aggressive with the 5th foul. But it obviously limits what you're capable of trying to do defensively, especially, and even offensively. You know, the Lakers had an opportunity to take advantage of Jaren Jackson, who got into a little bit of foul trouble, and then Edey himself also ended up with 5 fouls. But he
actually ended with 6. He fouled out,
right? But like, you know, there was while he was playing, when the game was still, you know, he had and it's hard. You're sitting there at home, maybe, or you know, you hear it on TV, like, you know, they can go attack these guys. The problem is when you're sitting on 5 fouls, you got to be careful about drawing, you know, a charge. And so, I mean, what I
also too, real quick, for those unaware, the Lakers did not have Jackson Hayes behind Anthony Davis. He sprained his ankle during a drill in practice. It was described as non-contact, like it kind of a freak thing. But he's going to be out. It's expected at least 1 to 2 weeks.
1 to 2 weeks, yeah.
So it was Christian Coloco And I guess if he wanted to roll with Armel Traore, who was active on the roster tonight, but beyond that, the Lakers super thin with size.
Right. But Armel Traore is 6'8".
But he
I mean, I understand he plays
bigger.
Long. He plays bigger. He's got length, and he's got long arms and all. He's 6'8". So, like, you are.
On this team, he's huge right now.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, if that's your break glass in case of emergency center, he's willing to get. I mean, look, you're a two-way guy, stuff like that. You're not arguing over the conditions under which you get to play, but he's game to go give it a try. But like, both Jackson and especially Edey are going to be too big for Traore if you have to go there. And so the Lakers were functionally playing with Anthony Davis, a guy who was playing his second game in a year and a half. And that was it against the one thing that Memphis did have in terms of guys being injured and all that stuff. And they've got some horrible injury problems. The one thing they do have are two really big guys in the middle, along with Santi Aldama, who is not a little guy, spends a lot of time on the perimeter and stuff, but, is still size that you need to account for.
And they're a big physical team anyway. Yeah. Like Marcus Smart, he's coming back from injury, but like, he is a really physical player. Jay Huff is always up for a revenge game now. Like Scottie Pippen plays kind of a physical brand like that.
Yeah, this is how Memphis plays. Do want to let people know quickly that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. The reason that this win doesn't, there are times, the Lakers moved to 7-4, they're 6-0 at home. It's not the most impressive win you'll ever see over, again, a shorthanded Memphis team. And there are times when the Lakers don't play particularly well. They let that double get and they win the game, but you're angry at the end. I got to tell you, I am not angry at this. And the reason is, and you can tell me if you agree, they did not cover themselves in glory in how they played to give up the lead. I think they definitely let off the gas a little bit, especially defensively. They just got a little lazy and that kind of thing. But once they put themselves in, I think, as much of as a 9-point hole, I think the Memphis lead got as much as 9. It could be off by a point here or there.
It is not.
The Lakers were playing under legitimately challenging circumstances and needed to kind of dig around and find ways to win this game. And, they started to get a couple shots to go down. Dalton Knecht, who we're going to talk about in this game, was hugely important. LeBron, obviously, another triple-double. But they had to figure this out. They had to, and Redick talked about this after the game. Like, they had some adversity and had to grind out a win against a team that was not going to give it to them. And as bad as Memphis's injuries issues are, this loss, they dropped them to 7-5. They're still 2 games over 500. They're a cohesive team that works really hard and makes you beat.
They have had, unfortunately for them, a lot of practice playing without Ja. I mean, and to some degree without Desmond Bane as well. But especially as great as Ja is, there may be no team in the league better equipped to know just how do we play without our star than the Grizzlies, because the last 2 seasons and change, they've unfortunately had to learn it a lot.
And I look at it this way. Like, you look at their starting lineup, Jackson, Aldama, Wells, Huff, Pippen. Like, you look at some of the guys who are playing in this game, pressed into service for because of injuries. Jake LaRavia would be playing for the Lakers. Edey would be playing for the Lakers. Marcus Smart, obviously, is really a starting caliber player coming off the bench after injury. So
Kennard's a solid player.
Right. Kennard would be playing for the Lakers in their rotation. Scottie Pippen,
Wells might play.
He might. Like, their stars aren't as good as LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and the way that Austin Reeves is coming through, you can even throw him in there. But the back end of the Memphis roster would be a welcome addition to what the Lakers are putting out there. So they're not without any kind of talent. And the Lakers don't deserve a pat on the back for what happened in the second and third quarter, some of which is related to, again, start to miss shots. They were shot the ball very well in the first quarter. Memphis was conceding a lot of threes throughout the game, and the 3-pointers dried up in the second and third, but they got very sloppy defensively. I think the way they came back and won this game is worth a little praise, as opposed to the standard sort of, these guys were messing around too much and they almost effed around and found out. Let's talk LeBron and the trip dub, and let's talk about Dalton Knecht, Andy, and let's talk about all those things next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. My daughter is 13. We have bonded a lot over the years through music, whether talking about Prince. I taught her about Prince at a very young age because I'm an outstanding father. She is really into Frank Ocean. She's been obsessed with Frank Ocean for about a couple of years. He has not put out an album in, 8 or 9, but she's heard rumors that he could be back in the studio, which would mean a tour. And I've promised her, if he does tour, I'm going to get his tickets, even though I know they'd be hard to get, because I got Game Time. It's going to make it easier with features like Game Time Picks, which filters out all of the confusing, flowery verbiage and just shows you incredible deals on great seats, saves you time. They offer panoramic seat views before you buy, so you know exactly what the view to the stage and your surroundings is going to be like. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off.
LockedOnDaily.com is where you go to sign up for the newsletter. You're going to want a newsletter on days like today when the Lakers have these fascinating victories. Make sure you're getting everything connected both to the show and to the league. Again, LockedOnDaily.com. You go click on Locked On Lakers, and the show is delivered to you every day. Anthony Davis, before we get to LeBron and AD, it should be noted, we talked about some of the struggles that he had in this game. You mentioned the 2 big threes down the stretch. Got to the line a couple times. That made a huge difference. And when you look at a game where you score 21 points, you have 14 rebounds, you hit 2 of your 3 threes and 7 of your 8 free throws, you have 3 blocked shots. And you can say pretty definitively that one of your worst games of the season, you're having a good year. like that's not a catastrophic stat line or impact. Like, it's pretty good.
When AD hit those back-to-back threes down the stretch of the fourth, which really played a role in ultimately sealing this game for the Lakers.
Yes.
I tweeted out at Cam Brothers that may be the most satisfied AD has looked after hitting a 3 since the Kobe shot against Denver in the bubble, because this had been such a tough night for AD. Again, with that physicality from Triple J, and then especially Zach Edey, who I think is officially a problem for a lot of teams around the league because he's just so damn big. AD really needed the satisfaction of a couple F all y'all buckets. Like, you could just see he was like, seriously, double middle fingers to all of you. I hate everybody on this court right now. I hate all of you. Did you just see what I did? Yeah. Did you just see what I did? Double middle fingers.
Yeah, and it's, that shot for AD after a couple of years of the 3-pointer wandering around in the wilderness. AD's 3-point shot this year, I think this game pushed him up, in the high 30s. And that's a legitimate place to be. Like, if Anthony Davis is going to shoot 2 or 4 threes a game and make 35 to 40%, that changes the way defenses have to play him. 35% is good enough to make teams have to play Davis differently, as opposed to the last couple seasons where, as opposed to 35%, it was closer to 3.5%. So like, this is a good development.
I have been
all you want.
I have been repeatedly skeptical about AD from three becoming a thing. I've said before that I've not been convinced that the efforting the juice is worth the squeeze, but this is one of those things where if I'm wrong, I am thrilled to be wrong, because
for sure.
If this becomes a thing, like unguardable sometimes gets thrown around a little loosely, but AD really is unguardable.
If not unguardable, is quite a challenge. So so I just wanted to make sure, like, contextually, because you talk about Anthony Davis struggling, it is worth noting, right, that in this game where he legitimately struggled, the foul trouble screwed up the Lakers rotation and it made it very difficult and frustrating for AD to play and all this stuff, he still finished with 21, 14, and 3 blocks, with 7 of 8 from the line and 2 of 3 from 3-point range. That's your worst day at the office. Pretty good. You're pretty good at the office.
He is having an MVP level season.
LeBron James, every time he does something, so like sometimes these like oldest guy to do blank things are kind of silly, because like pretty much anything he does at this point, he is the oldest person to do it. But when you become the oldest person to have 3 straight triple doubles, when you look at I saw a number that there are 30 players in the NBA. I forget who put this out on Twitter, so I apologize. That was just, through the flow of the game. There are 30 players in the NBA who were not born when LeBron had his first triple-double. And he just finished putting up 3 in a row. And this one wasn't cheap. Like, these are 3 triple-doubles that the Lakers needed to come back in this game. And LeBron, Dalton Knecht was a huge catalyst. We're going to talk about him before the game show's over. But like, LeBron put the team on his back and pulled them back in with some old man strength and the ferocity with which he's rebounding, and he's always capable of piling up double-digit assists. But he had 16 the other night, right? 14 on Wednesday. Am I doing the math right?
Yeah,
I think 30 assists in his last 2 games.
16.
LeBron has 30 assists in his last 2 games. That's insane.
No, it is undoubtedly.
He's got 43 assists in his last 3 games, going back to Philly.
Yeah, I mean, and a
43.
lot of them are really being generated as the game goes along, and it feels like he is really becoming like expert level, picking not just his spots, but like the ways to really summon his energy and like how much to unleash it kind of surgically. It was funny though, when you mentioned the old man strength, there was a sequence where LeBron had been, I don't remember exactly what happened, but LeBron had been upset about some non-call where he took contact. I think he probably had a right. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he ended up getting either he got the defensive rebound or the Lakers got the defensive rebound, but he ended up getting the ball and he just drove into Zach Edey. And like Zach Edey ended up getting called for the foul, but it was just very funny. It was like a very old man, like, yeah, I can still do this to you, Paul Bunyan.
I can't go over you. I can go through you.
Yeah.
He's just like, the thing about it, like,
it wasn't quite Kobe running through Powell's chest, but it was still impressive.
But you mentioned that, like, what I loved about late stage Kobe before the wheels came off too much,
for the Achilles,
was, the athleticism was still kind of there when you needed it. Like, he could summon those things sometimes, but even then, it wasn't the same. He wasn't exploding over people. He wasn't, he wasn't. While Kobe liked to pretend like I wasn't that good an athlete, dude, you want a dunk contest? Shut up. You saw the craft. And I think what is so much fun about LeBron over the last, few games, especially, is the athleticism. Came off the screen in the fourth quarter, pivotal moment, a bit of a defensive breakdown from the Grizzlies, and just, skies up for the dunk. Like he can do those things, but you see more of LeBron getting stuffed at the rim or having a little trouble elevating to get a shot off inside and stuff like that. And the shots that he would have had no trouble with 8 years ago, 7 years ago. But you really see a guy who just is so far beyond everyone else on the floor in his understanding of what is happening and where to go and what the pass is. And there isn't a pass he can't make. There isn't a shot that he can't sort of craft for himself when he needs to. It's just amazing to watch someone when you see not just the athletic skill, but the mind that is fueling it.
It's the supersized, Hall of Fame, Mount Rushmore of basketball in short list of GOAT conversation version of like what kept Rajon Rondo in the league for the last 3 or 4 years of his career. Like, again, I'm not putting LeBron.
Here's a great comparison for, people who are old enough to remember when Arvydas Sabonis had gotten to the NBA. Like, by the time he was a phenomenal international player, like one of sort of like Jokic before Jokic in a lot of ways in terms of the skill set and stuff like that, could not move by the time he got to the NBA. He was almost a literal statue, but he was so smart and so good. Like he could move 6 inches when he needed to and impact an entire play. Tom Brady in the pocket at the end of his career, basically a statue, but shifted around just and can control games because he still had a little bit of an arm and he knew everything.
Right.
Like guys like it's so much fun to see that. Rondo's a great example of that too. Like their brains are light years beyond everyone else. And you know who else's brain was really on point tonight? Wednesday night, JJ Redick's, because he kept Dalton Knecht in the game and he leaned on him hard. And Knecht came through. We will talk the Rook next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. Tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get can bet $5 and get $150. That's much more than 5 in bonus bets if you win that $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So let's just say you're one of those guys who, as you watch a game, it feels like you can anticipate everything that's about to happen, whether a big touchdown pass or a big turnover, big sack, all the momentum shifts. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So just confirm those hunches. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
JJ Redick had to do some coaching, I think, in this game on Wednesday. The entire system here was disrupted, and he certainly went away from what has been sort of the normal rotation. Again, I get it, 80s and foul trouble. Some of your regular options aren't necessarily there, but he's been leaning hard into Cam Reddish. Reddish only played 23 minutes. D'Angelo Russell only played 20. It wasn't particularly effective. He was sort of dicey all day to play with illness.
Well, okay. It's funny you bring this up, Brian, and this may be total confirmation bias on my part.
I know where you're going.
But you may recall in, I believe it was Wednesday's show, we were talking about Rui splits in October and November and how starkly worse they were in November. I had a theory / hope / I think reasonable speculation that November had been so bad for Rui, in part because he had been dealing with the illness that is apparently going around the entire league and certainly the Lakers locker room, and that once the illness passed, Rui would look better. It's been a couple days since they played. Rui didn't just play better in this game.
Great.
It wasn't even just that he was 19 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a block. He was very aggressive getting to the basket, 6 of 7 from the field, 4 of 5 from behind the arc, opened the game with, I believe, 2 threes. He was just more energetic. Like he was livelier. So it is confirming to me, without doing any asking around, that I was right. I'm willing to stand on this. My hope is that D'Lo is still feeling sick, and that would explain both the bad game and some odd decisions he made on the court.
if I'm Gabe Vincent, I'm just walking around the locker room going, "Ooh, I feel terrible." Like he might feel totally fine, but like I would be.
Unfortunately, he looked too healthy out there. Yeah. Like the problem with Gabe, beyond the fact that he's not playing well, is he plays too hard for you to ever believe he's sick. Like he probably helped his case by dogging it a little more.
I could totally believe like D'Lo slightly like ill, sort of slightly hallucinating while he plays, seeing things that aren't there. I guess he saw JJ Redick yelling out to him, "Force 2 bad threes on the same possession, D'Lo. Come on, man. I'm your coach." Yeah, and he did.
I know. They were awful. They were really bad.
Yeah, I see dead people. it just didn't work out for him. Not a great night for D'Lo. Yeah. I think what Redick did was he leaned into connect. As I leaned into, but what was that, the 11th time in this show? I got to stop that. Mental note. 31 minutes for connect. And this was not just a matter of riding the hot hand. I think it was recognizing, the thing that was showing confidence in a player and letting him finish a game. Like we've been waiting for one of these moments really where connect would impact a game with his shooting, change the offense, change the rhythm of a game in the way that 3-point shooters can. This was that game. Like it happened. And ironically, it happened. It seemed like what got him going was a totally lucky banked 3-pointer.
Mm-hmm. This felt like, remember last week, Dalton had a homecoming of sorts playing in Memphis, in Tennessee. He was a star at Tennessee. He had a lot of people there to see him play, and he did not play particularly well. This felt like the game that he wanted to have last week against Memphis, just mistimed by a week. Mm-hmm. But he was terrific. He had 19 points off the bench, 5 of 5 from behind the arc, 7 of 8 from the field, had 3 assists, including a really good driving alley-oop to Cam Reddish. He had a steal. He played really, really well in this game. He and Austin Reeves had a bit of 2-man game going. This is also too, not just because he was so successful tonight. And honestly, JJ said after the game that he felt like Dalton was the catalyst for getting going in the third quarter and carrying it over in the fourth. This is also why I had been wanting JJ to give Dalton longer minutes, because I just feel like, especially for a rookie, he's going to need to feel his way through a lot of stuff. He's going to I don't sense that Knecht has been like playing while looking over his shoulder or anything like that. It's hard when you're a rookie. And also too, for the stuff that they've needed off the bench, other than D'Lo, he's the only other guy that can provide it. And I've just wanted to see him out there longer. And I felt like, and everydayers will know, I've been saying this, I feel like if he was just out there longer, eventually something's going to happen. But this was huge for him. I mean, he closed this game.
He did. And the Lakers... The Lakers have a bench problem. I think we can all agree. And, one game does not show that, it's solved, connected. They'll put him in the starting lineup or whatever. But it shows what they draft, like what they felt like they had when they drafted him. And like the signs have been there. The confidence is there. He hasn't stopped shooting, hasn't tried. And what Redick said after the game too is like, we just need him to, he is trying to do the things that we need him to be able to do to play, because, you're not always going to be hot from the floor and, hitting the threes that you need. And he's not going to go 5 for 5 every, and 7 for 8, 5 for 5, all that stuff. You have to be able to contribute when 15 points from your 3-pointers aren't on the board. You go 2 for 5, which by the way is pretty good. But that's 15 points. And what are you doing to make up for those 15 points? And defensively, he hasn't been able to really to do that. And and it's like the numbers are pretty bad. So
sure. Like, still wanted him out there more anyway.
Well, I understand, and especially given the alternatives, because Vincent is he missed all 6 of his shots on Wednesday, and literally offered no other stats. Didn't have a rebound, didn't have an assist, didn't have a steal.
I texted you during the game. I am really ready for JJ to give Max Christie another shot and to take Gabe's minutes, because especially. We can talk about this more for Friday.
Or, it can be Knecht can pick up some of those minutes. Like, you can orient things in a lot of different ways.
I just feel like at this point, with D'Lo now coming off the bench, doing a lot of ball handling, doing a lot of scoring, Vincent's role felt undefined, unclear, not just to me. I feel like it's unclear to him. And, I just want to say, he's working. This is not a guy that I think is out there doing cardio. He's working.
I'm sure it bothers him how poorly he's playing.
But if he's not making shots, he is too small to really be a defensive presence. If nothing else, I would rather default to the bigger guy who may not be making shots, but Christie can guard a wider variety of players. And maybe this is me just trying to protect my Max stock, but I just feel like there just is not a role right now.
And you don't get anything. You don't get anything. It's like, okay, well, Max Christie's not a point guard. Fair.
But you don't need him to be one now.
Right. So I say, except right now, you don't really, neither is Gabe Vincent.
No, he's not.
And so he's just, if
Knecht had 3 assists. Knecht had 3 assists tonight. I wouldn't be shocked if that's like a third of what Vincent's gotten all season. It might be more.
Well, he had 0 on Wednesday for the season. He is averaging half an assist per game. Right. Did I click on the right person? Gabe Vincent, point guard, is averaging half an assist per game. He has 1 assist in his last 5 games.
I just found it. He has 5 assists. So Dalton Knecht got 3/5 of Gabe Vincent's entire assist total in 1 game, and Dalton Knecht's not a point guard either. I mean, just
no.
We can get into
Bron's
this
got
more.
43 in the last 3 games.
I feel like this is a direction that JJ should at minimum consider.
And look, I mean, Vincent's not playing big minutes here, so this isn't one of these why is Taurean Prince playing 33 minutes a game kind of things. But at some point, in the same way that you kind of pulled the plug to some degree, you pulled the plug on Max Christie and
very
swapped
quickly.
him out. Yeah, and I get it. Max,
I'm not being critical. I'm just saying,
right? But I'm saying it was quick. And Reddish was going to continue playing like Cam Reddish does. He can work hard. I think everyone is concerned. A lot of people are concerned that you get something similar to last year, where sort of the jolt of energy that Reddish into the starting lineup provides kind of runs its course. What do you do from there? But for the time being, it's remember you said you don't mind being wrong about who'd you say you didn't mind being wrong about earlier in the show? Doesn't matter. But I'd love to if they sustain this with Reddish all season long, happy to be wrong. But they can't keep going like this with Vincent. I saw somebody suggest on Twitter, maybe they're doing this to try to make sure he's got some trade value or whatever. He's not going to Gabe Vincent playing well with another year left on his contract, all that stuff, unless he just starts 6th man of the year type stuff, in which case you're not trading him anyway. He's a number. You're not trading. He's a stat on a ledger. And I hate talking about players this way, but nobody's trading for Gabe Vincent because they really value him as a player.
No,
it's just they're going to want the asset that comes with it.
We can get into more of this for Friday, but again, awesome game for Dalton Knecht that I hope is the thing that unlocks him moving forward.
Locked on Lakers, speaking of things that unlock, Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can unlock all of your feelings with 26,000 subscribers. Leave us questions, leave us comments. That wasn't terrible. LockedOnDaily.com is where you sign up for the newsletter. It was certainly a smoother thing than Anthony Davis. Davis.
Just land the plane, Brian.
we're it's the runway. The runway's a little further out there. I'm just
respectfully shut the F up.
We're just gliding in, and
we'll see everyone Friday.
See everyone tomorrow. Yeah.